Chris Armas all the way out of the bottom of your screen outside of his area. Meanwhile, Mihailovic, Eno in frame! Navajo delivers! 2-1 Colorado! The Brazilian striker strikes again! Yappy is going to get a straight red card right here. The teenager initiated contact after the ball was not even close. Let's listen for the announcement.
After review, number 77, red, commits a violent conduct offense. The decision on the field remains red card.
Look.
We were supposed to.
Mihailovic in. Second chance shot by Rosenberry made its way to Edwards, and Edwards turns it in. And the Colorado Rapids continue to be dangerous on set pieces, and there is Michael Edwards opening his MLS account.
Previous attempt off of corner, Edwards getting on the end of it, and you can just see tons of bodies. Pulskamp, the one that's coming out. As soon as the lines are cleared, there's the loose ball. Edwards does well just to know where he is. Pulskamp coming down. It's a nifty little back.
And welcome to Rapids Rant. It's your 3 games in 8 days, end of September, playoff chase, good, bad, and ugly Rapids Week edition. I am Don Pablo, your host of Rapids Rant. Thanks for joining us as always. Big weekend match coming up against Toronto. Both teams here in Commerce City tomorrow anyway. In the playoff race, Rapids end Wednesday night back where they started, in 4th place instead of 3rd. But they're still got that home playoff position. We're going to look at some important games coming up. Some business news. Maybe the FC Dallas is happening that I think is going to happen to the Rapids here pretty soon. We're going to get you previewed for Toronto and reasons why I think the Rapids can win. And whatever else I think of in my head to relate to the Colorado Rapids sports situation. Like I said, I am Don Pablo. Thanks for joining me. You can find the Rapids Rant podcast on any podcasting platform. You can also watch us live, subscribe on YouTube or Twitch. Just a Mountain Time Sports Report, YouTube or Twitch. And you can, watch live when I do the show. Sometimes it's Fridays, sometimes it's Tuesdays or Mondays. But I generally have one for you before the end of the week, before your Rapids weekend match on a Saturday. Just, MLS coverage. And now we're getting to, 5 games left for most teams. We're watching the standings. Every minute matters now. Injuries. If you have good luck, it's coming to that time, and if you have bad luck, you got to test the depth of your team. So let's get started with the good. I'm sure at the beginning I put Rafa Navajo's header goal, game winner against the Portland Timbers, and then Mike Edwards' debut goal in MLS. It was a back heel. It was awesome. So that was the good for the week. Rapids getting 3 points so far last Saturday. And I watched I watched the Yappy play so many times, and yeah, violent conduct, and if that's an objective, you know, event for the referee, guess we'll go with his ruling. But uh, the guy that Yappy red carded, violent conducted, he took a step and fell down. And if it hurt that bad, or if it was such a bad play, he didn't lay down on the ground. He was down for a couple seconds. Then he got back up and he tried to get at Yappy. Georgie Mihailovic, who is a fiery fella, fiery attitude, I would say. He was like playing peacemaker because I don't think he thought it was that bad. But obviously, the referee did. Yappy goes off in extra time against Portland. Rapids holding on the last couple minutes, and they get the victory against the Timbers. Revenge for their 2 losses in Portland the beginning of the season. And I thought it was awesome, too, since, the Rapids had such a bad time in Leagues Cup and the beginning of the season, that Zach Steffen got his goalkeeper of the tournament for Leagues Cup before the game, and only allowing 1 goal to the Timbers. And Rapids have given up a bunch of shots those 2 games. And let me add, I know there was 31 for Kansas City on Wednesday, but on last Saturday when the Rapids played, we got Salt Lake. Sorry. So 31 plus. Portland had 17, 48 shots in the last 2 matches. And it's probably an area the Rapids are going to improve on. As long as they don't give up 24, they will keep that average down here in the month of September. So far, I'm up to September. Rapids 1-1, 3 points on the road. In Kansas City, it was weird because last year, for all the struggles the Rapids had, they actually won in Kansas City in a midweek game. So I was giving the Rapids hope. I was in high spirits and thoughts, but the first 20 minutes kind of dissuaded me, and I thought it was going to be tough for the defense. Obviously, Lalas Abubakar getting in the concussion protocol. It looks like he's going to play tomorrow. Coach Armis gave us an injury update, said he has a couple little tests to go, but I think Lalas will play. Definitely needed on the back line, just because he's cornerstone. He's been with the Rapids so long, and he's Lalas. He's the man. Everybody looks to him, and he brings the fire. He brings the fire to the defense. Maxu played every minute so far in the MLS season, joined by Zach Steffen, who's played every minute so far for the Rapids in the MLS season. Maxu cleared what might have been the tying Portland goal in extra time, and he cleared it out. So thankful for Maxu, and like I say, defenders, unless they score a goal or get an assist, if you don't talk about them, that's a good thing, because all they can do is they start at 0, and unless they score a goal or an assist, then all they can do is kind of mess up. They have to be perfect the whole time. One mistake, and then the game's kind of on them. But they start at 0. The goal scorers, the attack and midfielders, they only can go positives basically for the most part, unless you're John Lewis in the first game. But I don't want to bring that up. And you get a handball in the box. That was such a long time ago. Johnny Lewis is such a different player now. Although he is, I think, in a couple more appearances, he's going to be the 8th most appearances for a Rapids player ever. And that kind of surprised me. 8th most appearances, but I'm happy because now he's, shrugged off whatever was wrong, and he's got his chances now, and he's made the most of it. And I hope that Johnny Lewis can keep that going through the playoffs. But the Portland game, aforementioned Johnny Lewis scores 14th minute, and the Rapids had a bunch of chances before that. And it was coming, you can tell. And the Rapids, they handled it. But Portland, they will always go forward, and they just, they had their counterattack so quick, man. It was fast, and Rapids did very well, only giving up the one goal. Zach had a couple amazing saves, one off his foot on a breakaway, and Portland had probably a couple unlucky bounces that went wide of the goal. It was 1-1 at halftime. Ayala scored for Portland in the 24th minute. Coming out of halftime, Rapids, I don't know what Arma said to them, but they came out firing again. And Portland had their chances, but the Rapids put theirs away. I played for you the set piece goal. Maybe it was 35 yards out. Georgie crossed it to Navajo, and he buried it. And the Rapids had to hold on for what it was a 71st minute, but the game didn't end until the 101st. Because in extra time, and I alluded to it earlier, I don't know what the referee saw, and the pool, we tried to ask the question, but they didn't. They didn't say, it was just VAR. They were like, well, we confirmed it with VAR. That's all the referees will give you. They're not going to argue. And we're lucky to even get a question as the media pool. They're not going to argue. So, they're not going to tell us something, they're not going to give us the information we want. And it was weird to me because I just thought of this. And we do the pool interviews at the end in front of the backdrop when the guys are standing up, and it's 10 yards from the office where all the cameras are for the stadium. And I was reading, and in the Pepsi Center they have the facial recognition technology, and at Kroenke's other stadium in Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium, they have the facial recognition technology. And I'm like, they have to have it. And I don't know if they do, but I assume they do. And it's, but it's pointed at the audience. It's not pointed at the players. And I'm like, how do they not have an angle to see, what allegedly Yappy did to the guy? Although if he was hurt that bad, like somebody gets stepped on, they're down longer than that guy for the Timbers was. The knock knees are down longer, but violent conduct, I don't know. Yeah, straight red, man. That and the MLS YouTube guy said it. I'd say the PR guys are just learned soccer fellows. Don't know why he got a red. Can't argue with the referee. Yep. On top of that, he got fined for not leaving the pitch in a timely manner. So that sucks. But if I give advice, and since I'm the host, Don Pablo, I can give advice. People listen, and I have to listen if you want to. I know many people don't, or they disagree with me, but it's my show, and I get to talk as much as I want to. So, as the great Adam Carolla said, I agree with me. Just don't let it snowball. Like, don't let it rolling downhill and pick up steam. Like, yep. I love the fieriness. I love the aggressiveness. I don't know what the referee saw. And, everybody I've talked to and have been around doing this podcast again for the last 5 years. I don't know. Why do we always get bad calls against Portland, by the way? Because Ted Uncle on the Thanksgiving game, the year the Rapids won the Western Conference, Ted Uncle, he was my number one enemy for, I still see him over there, and I remember that, and I try not to talk trash to the referees because they got a hard job, right? But the ref was looking right at it, and I don't think he had warned Yappy about anything before that. I went back and looked. He didn't really talk to him, so I don't know, but whatever happened, then take a step and a half, 2 steps, and then fall down. And then if you're such violent conduct that you jump right up and you look fine and you're not holding your back anymore, whatever. It's over. Just don't let it snowball, because the last thing you want to do is be known for the guy that gets the violent conduct, because then maybe the referees won't give you as much leeway, right? And the last thing you want is to be known in the referee club, in the referee circles, is the guy that just gets straight red cards. But just don't let it fester. Don't you got to let it slide out. And that's the good thing about the Rapids, is they let things slide off their back. They come back after a loss with wins. And if I remember correctly, the only time they've had a couple bad decisions was before in June, right before they went on the break before July 4th match. And then they come back, had a good July. Obviously, we know what happened in August, and now we're trying to go above 500 for the month of September with 2 matches left. Toronto at home, and then Minnesota a week from Saturday, which is going to be a good game. So they won they won against Portland here at DSG. Then Rapids go, so no Yappy. And then no Lawless, because he was in the concussion protocol. So it was a very different lineup. And we've seen most of them. Jackson Travis played. Michael Edwards subbed in for Lawless. But the Rapids didn't have it for whatever reason. They gave up so many shots on goal. Kansas City, even though they are currently in 12th place in the Western Conference, they're about to play for the U.S. Open Cup, which they have won 4 times, and a current manager, a former Rapids player, has won 3 times. He's going for his 4th. And I just had a old man moment, because I don't remember his name. Forgive me. Oh, whatever. So I had it just how it is. And I know I just talked about him, the guy that used to play for the Rapids. Anyway, don't matter. We're done with Kansas City. Probably not going to see them in the playoffs. They are not out of it yet, but we'll give you a little playoff update here pretty soon. Rapids, old friend Alan Pulido scored twice, and Tommy scored twice. Rapids gave up 4 goals on the night. And, the only thing that cures a lot of goals given up is scoring a lot of goals. And the good news is Rapids are positive in the goal differential by 6, scoring 56, giving up 50. So that's cool with me. I am rooting for Kansas City to beat LAFC in the U.S. Open Cup final next week. And, yeah, so there's that. And now we just got to look ahead to the next match. We have all these great moments so far on the season, and I know the Rapids are going to want to bring more. And what will that be? Home playoff game. We've had a lot of debuts, a lot of goals scored, and that's the only thing left really is winning that end of season tournament. And from what we saw in the last tournament, I don't care if we gave up 50 goals, if we can win penalty shootouts, because that's a lot of time what it comes down to in these tournaments. So give up 4 goals to Kansas City. Hey, as long as we score 4 and get to the overtime, and if we don't get it in overtime, get it in a penalty shootout, Rapids are handling business in that area this year. And we were talking about CONCACAF Champions Cup, and the last time the Rapids were in it, we played Comunicaciones from El Salvador, and that was one of the shootouts that Rapids just got dominated in. So the big thing that's happened for me this year is, hey, our team now, we're so hardcore, we're so focused and locked in, and now we can win these shootouts. So that's positive to me. So just get us to the playoffs. Let's get a home game or two, and we'll see what happens. All right. So we talked about the Rapids ending up in fourth place after Wednesday. Our current playoff matchup would be hosting Seattle for a 3-game set, because after wild card round, the wild card teams get to play midweek, but the rest of the playoffs teams, they start either Saturday or Sunday after that for the start of the 3-game series, and for the MLS playoffs. And then after that, it's one for the semifinals, one for the Western Eastern Conference finals, and then one for MLS Cup final. And just to button up the Yappy, I looked it up, and the Rapids did challenge it to the league, and it was denied. And I tweeted the rules about challenging a red card, and is the teams can challenge every red card they've received, but if they lose twice, if they get denied twice, then they can't challenge anymore. So it's not really a problem with the red cards. The Rapid, the first one was Kevin, and that was the second yellow, and that wasn't, you really couldn't challenge that. This one for Yappy, I think it was worth it. And even though they got denied, it was, camera angles. What? And it might have been a thing like you have to stick with the referee's decision, the original decision on the field, because the camera didn't show you enough evidence to change it, right? And that's just unfortunate as well. I guess the camera can't catch the player's mentality or what was really said, which is weird. But I was looking it up, and yeah, we can't do camera angles, but we have facial recognition technology that can, give you people's names, and if it's already in the database, they name your picture, and with AI being what it is. But we can't see what happened on a play in the middle of the field that everybody's watching. Whatever. And it made me look it up, and I remember reading a story, because in the United Kingdom for the English Premier League, they hate VAR. They hate it. they won't stand for it. But they're changing it, and it's more maybe the offside rule, and it's what it is the cameras are going to get faster. Cameras, frames per second, 4K, all that stuff. And I was looking at it. They're changing the cameras in the English Premier League. And what it was a few cameras that could do 50 to 70 frames per second. But the new thing is, and by the way, this is very interesting, it's just going to be iPhones, and it's not even going to be the newest iPhone. It's going to be the iPhone from 2-3 years ago. The iPhone 16 just came out this year, 2024. And the ones used for this technology were the iPhone 14. So several years ago. I got the Android, what is it, 23? I mean, it doesn't matter. Ultra, and I got 5 cameras on my phone. But it's using the iPhone cameras. And what they do is it's as little as 4, but they can put 10 iPhones together. And it's from 50 to 70 frames per second to 1,000 frames per second. So it'll be better for offsides. maybe it'll be better for intent on a tackle or I don't know, a handball in the box, a chicken wing. But the other thing is right now, and when you go to like the computer animated visuals, they can do, I think it was 25 data points on a player, and the players wear their tracker on the backs, and they got to put those on before they go on the field. If you watch the subs, coming out and they take their training tops off, you can, sometimes they wear them, sometimes they have to put them on right before they go in the game, but they have their trackers on the back. And so, so they'll have that, and it's 15 data points, and the new technology is called Dragon. It'll be 1,000 data points. It'll be basically your whole body. So it should help for offsides and VAR. It really helps for goal line. Goal line technology was pretty much already figured out. But just all those camera angles, and there wasn't a good one for to see what happened for the Yappy foul. And all right, I'm gonna stop complaining about it right now. Maybe maybe if it happens again. Although 5 games left, I don't think we're gonna get, or the Rapids will get, a red card. It's been 2 in 30 games, 29. So once every 15 matches. And I'm gonna bring up yellow cards and red cards here in a little bit for Toronto FC and the Rapids match this weekend. But I'm looking forward to that technology because I like, new camera angles, new stuff, and a couple of things just off the top of my head. Number one, in American football, the way they spot the ball is just eyes from, the side judges running down the field. But they just started this year, and they only did in the preseason where it was computer like tracked. So, they just have the chain gains, and that's what they've been using for 75 years in the NFL. They barely have like computerized down markers for that. And then the other thing I was thinking about was they're trying to replace umpires with a computerized strikes and balls calling technology. And the whole thing is with umpires, every umpire strike zone is a little different. Is your umpire giving that call, right off the plate today, a little bit above the belt? That's been that way for 30 years in baseball. So, it's different. Some things are subjective. The referee did what he did. I guess we're just moving forward. Feel bad for Yappy because he lost a game check and a fine for whatever that was. But as a guy who's been picked on by referees before, specifically in lacrosse, I was just a large fella. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm playing against little guys. Little guys were attacked. I was defense. They were attacked. Like, what do you want me to do? And by the way, lacrosse is a physical sport, so hitting people was kind of my thing. Anyway, just going over some of the scores from last weekend. Excuse me. We'll do midweek. And first of all, San Jose, for coming back from Seattle. Rapids fell down to 5th place after the loss from Kansas City, in Kansas City. But no less than an hour later, San Jose, on the road, only their second draw on the road of the season. They have 2 wins on the road and 2 draws on the road. There's their second draw. Of course, their 2 wins, one in Utah, one in Colorado. So, San Jose, kudos to you. Great job. I won't talk trash until next week, but they, with 18 points on the season, firmly have the wooden spoon in the league right now, and the 47th seed in Leagues Cup next year. Elsewhere, Portland at home took care of the LA Galaxy, and that's a bright spot, maybe a good point for the Rapids because the Rapids still face LA Galaxy. I think it's midweek in 2 weeks on the 2nd, right? That's going to be at home. That's the midweek game, if I remember correctly. Austin LAFC draw at 1 in Los Angeles. That is, the Rapids do host the LA Galaxy October 2nd. Rapids only 2 losses at home. Cincinnati doubled up Minnesota 2-1. Salt Lake, Dallas did not make the comeback. They lost to Salt Lake 3-2. Salt Lake improves to 2nd place in the Western Conference. Atlanta came back down 2-0 in Atlanta against Miami. New England, Montreal tied at 2. Philadelphia, their losing streak is over. They go into Yankee Stadium with the small field, and they beat up on New York City FC 5-1. Champs Columbus shut out Toronto 2-0. That was in Toronto. Toronto has lost 2 out of their last 3 MLS matches, and they had a tough run in the Leagues Cup. So I'm feeling good about this Toronto match this weekend. Houston, Vancouver, a couple teams on the fringe of the playoffs, tied at 1. And that's about it from midweek. Let's go to standings real quick. I'll just keep you updated on those, and then the other 2 things that I wanted to talk about today. Forgive me. All right, so LA Galaxy have clinched the playoffs in the Western Conference. The only team that's eliminated in the entire league, but in the Western Conference, is San Jose. So they can play some playoff spoiler. They already helped the Rapids out once this past weekend. As I said, getting the draw on the road in Seattle. But other than that, Salt Lake 2nd, 50 points. LAFC 49. Rapids 2 back in 4th place, 47. Rapids own the tiebreaker over the Seattle Sounders, also with 47 points on the season. I believe it's the home record. Home wins 9 for the Rapids to 7 for Seattle. Vancouver 1 point back of both Rapids and Seattle, 46. Houston behind that, 45 in 7th place. Wildcard teams in the West right now. Portland would host Minnesota. Portland 43, Minnesota 39, so they're 8 points back. Rapids do face Minnesota United Loons here in next weekend, so that's going to be a big matchup for the Rapids. Austin FC in 10th place. They're on the outside looking into the playoffs right now, but they're still in contention, only 4 points back with 5 matches to play. They can still get in. Dallas, 34 points. They can still get in, 5 points back from 9th. And then Kansas City, they're 8 points out. I think they're focused on the U.S. Open Cup at this point. That'll give them, that'll be a successful season to me if you can get that silverware. Although it would probably, if you can get an MLS front office guy to, at least corporate MLS front office guy to rank the trophies, it's MLS Cup, Leagues Cup, then U.S. Open Cup. But U.S. Open Cup, the oldest sporting competition in North America. I'm sure Kansas City will be happy with that as a small consolation prize for the dean of coaching Kansas City. And I can't remember, not Miola. It doesn't matter. St. Louis, the only team with no wins on the road this season. 6-8 draws, 28 points. They are 11 points out of the playoffs right now. So they technically still in contention, but they got to go on a winning streak. Probably not happening. They're negative 15 goal differential in 13th place in the Western Conference, and last place, bringing up the rear. As I said, San Jose, negative 31 goal differential. That's your Western Conference playoff update. Let's go to the East. Inter Miami, they got an 8-point chokehold on Supporters Shield. Cincinnati, 63 points. Cincinnati and Columbus all have qualified for the playoffs, 55 and 53, 10 points back in 4th place. Orlando with 43 points. New York also 43. in 5th. That'll be a fun opening playoff series. New York City FC, after getting beat down, they actually have a good home record. Rapids went there and beat them on the road. New York City, 8 wins, 4 losses, 2 draws. So they actually have a pretty good home record. That would be what, 5th, 6th best in the league. But they're in 6th place in the Eastern Conference. Charlotte, the last team before wild card, 38 points. Toronto and Philadelphia would be your wild card matchup right now. Toronto, the Rapids play this weekend, of course. So that's going to be a big game for them because nobody is out of it in the Eastern Conference. And the teams that are on the outside looking in right now, DC United tied for 33 points with Philadelphia, who got back on track. DC United, negative 13 goal differential, but they are in the playoff race right now. 5 games left for them. Atlanta, 32 points, 1 point back. Nashville, 32. Nashville also negative 15 goal differential. They had a coaching change, but they can still make the playoffs as a wild card. But, the prize for winning that wild card game is going to Miami and playing Messi in the playoffs, which I'm sure Miami and him are going to be gearing up for because he's won everything the last couple of years. Throw an MLS Cup in that list. I'm sure that's what they're going for, resting up and all that for the playoffs. Montreal, 31 points, negative 22 goal differential, still in the playoff race. Chicago at 29, and New England on the bottom again. They get up like 3-4 places because they're so close in the Eastern Conference. But now after midweek, they're back in 15th place in the East, but only 5 points out of a playoff race, and they have 6 games left to play. So, 1 game in hand at least? That's 3. That would be at 31. That'd be 13th place, and depending on what happens. So New England not out of it because they have a game on hand on everybody. The only other team that's played 28 and has 6 matches left are the champs, Columbus Crew. So interesting playoff matchups coming up. One thing I want to talk about, because I do like the business side of sports. I was a program director of a business talk station. And, going through earnings calls and, CEOs and stock market, listening to that stuff for months and months and years, it got me pretty well versed on it. And my one thought was, and follow Rapids Rant on Twitter. Go to @RapidsRant. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Although that's really me posting on my personal account. You can go to Rocky Course for that, but you can go to Rapids Rant. So on Twitter, they just came out with a stat this week because it's going to be a quarterly earnings, and Twitter X has lost 84% of their revenue. 84%. So I don't know what boss keeps his job when they lose 84% of their revenue from 2 years, but that just made me laugh because I'm sure that Elon and everybody in charge over there at Twitter, I don't know who's going to be the fall guy, but I know it's not the head man, the face of the business. 84%. Anyway, good news for some business people. FC Dallas, who the Rapids and the team that designed Dick's Sporting Goods Park, after it was Pizza Hut Field, but they changed the name in Dallas, and I forget what it's called now, but they are kind of in the same boat where around them there's development area, and their stadium is 19 years old. Of course, Dick's Sporting Goods Park, 17 years old. And it looks like the Hunt family, who owns the Chiefs and FC Dallas, they're redeveloping their stadium and around and the existing land around the stadium. So, familiar Rapids fans? They're going to be putting a cover over it for to shade the people. They're going to be changing the north side of the stadium, which is exactly like the Rapids north side, where all the stuff for the bands and the tours that come through for the other dates at the stadium. They're changing it up right there. So they bring all that up. They're adding a bunch of seats. They're enclosing the stadium, basically. Probably be harder for the tours to come in and bring their equipment and all that stuff in. But FC Dallas, they're changing it for that. And they're going to be redeveloping the land around the stadium. And I have never been to that stadium. But looking at the deal and the Hunt family, the owners of FC Dallas, they're paying the overruns, and I think 35% of the project, the city of Frisco is paying the rest of it for the improvements to the stadium and the field and stuff. And I think they play high school football there too, which is, as people know, very big in Texas. So I'd hope the people down there, they do not do that here in Colorado, but and I was thinking like Demoff, right? Like they fired the number one guy like in the Rocky Mountain region, quote unquote, for Kroenke Sports Enterprises. And I with my small brain, I was like, oh, we're gonna get a TV contract. But no, I think it's gonna be bigger than that, because a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about, it was the public meeting, and before like a city council gets to vote on a plan to, change stadiums, change zoning, all this stuff, you have to have public meetings. So the public meeting for to change the land around the Pepsi Center, which Kroenke also owns, of course, was 2 weeks ago. only two people from the public, only two citizens came to, even just to have, a comment. Because and it was like, that's how much people care. So the Kroenkes, they're going to redevelop the land over there. They're going to make it mixed use. Apparently, there's going to be another park, so that's a positive for people living downtown. You have a park to walk through and all that. But the parking situation is going to be different in a couple of years down there. I don't know where everybody's going to park to go to Avalanche and Nuggets games and Mammoth games. But they're bringing. He got in charge of this, and he, helped with SoFi Field down there, and they have a bunch of commercial space. NFL Network's down there. It's not just the stadium that Kroenke owns, and there's a bunch of stuff around the stadium. So they're going to take that, bring that experience, do Pepsi Center, and Kroenke was talking about making a trade for the land around Commerce City to for something, and I don't remember all the details. I look it up, but I've already been going for 40 minutes, so we don't want to go that much longer on Rapids Rant here, because this is a show about the Rapids, although I like to get into the minutia, the business side a little bit. So I can see, and basically when Dick's Sporting Goods started, the Arsenal land, that was empty. There was nothing over there. And Commerce City on the other side of Quebec, it had some stuff, but it was basically bars and there was one gas station. Now there's many gas stations. The Denver police, where they fix the cars, is on the other side of 56th over there. And that land is more valuable than it ever has been, although I don't know where they're going to, if they sell that, where they're going to put that. The U.S. Postal Service has their general mail facility for the entire region across. I don't know if people knew this, in the parking lot, like in the west side. West side of the parking lot. It's a post office. United States Postal Service, like general mail, it services the whole western region. But I heard that's very valuable land, and maybe post office, because the highway, it's better, and there's been more sprawl out east, of course, on I-70. Maybe they want to go out there. Denver police probably couldn't do that, but that land is valuable. And now Kroenke's coming in, and there is a never-ending supply of franchise restaurants and all that stuff. So maybe we'll have some of that, but it's all those houses and it's walkability. Although I know that 56th Avenue, you're driving down there, it has the highest school zone speed limit in Denver, I believe, because 56th Avenue, people driving, 40, 50 miles an hour down there. And students are crossing the street, which is scary. But the walkability over there is so much better. And I know people that park in the neighborhood and walk over to Dick's Sporting Goods, which I'm probably doing next July 4th because I can't do that. Even after the press conference and everything, it still took me an hour to get out of the parking, which was weird. But anyway, it's just going to be different. And I don't know if we're going to have free parking or the Rapids will have free parking anymore, but we'll have to figure something out for that. But it's going to be worse downtown with the Pepsi Center when they take away all those parking lots down there. But then I was thinking about it like, Demoff, they'll get the TV contract worked out hopefully at some point. But I think he was brought over for bigger issues to deal with, talking to city councils, working with mayors and all those people for the big projects, right? For changing the city projects. Because, and I'm done after this, but changing infrastructure where you have to dig up, put in sewer lines and water pipes and all that stuff. That's what you don't even care if you're a Rapids fan listening to this for that part, but I'm interested in it. Anyway, talking about the red card, we're talking about what the Rapids can do to win against Toronto FC this Saturday, the 21st of September. And I was looking at it. Rapids, only their second red card on the season. They are the third least yellow carded team in MLS. Forgive me. And by the way, yeah, it's it is Toyota Stadium, and it's $182 million renovation. They're putting a bunch of new seats, 3,400 seats, 20% bigger stadium. A new lighting system, a new video board. sorry. Hotel, and new parking. All right. So there, new stadium, and the rendering looks, and also the United States Soccer Hall of Fame is down there, so that might be worth it to see one of the only teams that has never won an MLS Cup. So there's that. By the way, the weather this weekend, it might be a little chilly out there for a fall. It might be a crisp fall evening. Probably a little less than 60 degrees at kickoff. Maybe rain. So that'll be fun to host Toronto. All right. So the team with the most yellow cards, the team with the least yellow cards, champs, Columbus Crew, although they've played one less game. Second least, New York Red Bull, 44. Third, only one more, Colorado Rapids, 45 yellow cards on the season. Columbus, by the way, only 33. And so good for them. Teams with the most yellow cards on the season, Toronto FC. They have 84. So they have not quite double what the Rapids have at 44, but that what are the Rapids the best at? 23 set piece goals on the season, right? I feel like we're going to create some fouls. Johnny Lewis, really good at that. Got the Rapids a bunch of penalties until he started scoring again and getting assists. That was his main contribution to the Rapids this year. But now, he's firmly entrenched, I think as a starter ever since Cabral went down. And Johnny Lewis, let's go, John. Let's get a penalty. They scored in a set piece. It was a corner that fell to Navajo. He headed it down. Keegan Rosenberry, captain, he kind of passed it. I thought it was going in, but then Mike Edwards, by the way, it was a back heel for his first MLS goal. That was awesome. We talked to him 4 years. He's been in Colorado and not quite on the MLS senior team anyway, but he got his first goal for the Rapids there. But Toronto, 84 yellow cards. I think the Rapids, they're scared. Toronto is scared. Toronto's scared of the Rapids' free kick ability, and I'll be looking at that. But, if the Rapids don't score on a free kick Saturday night, I'm going to be very surprised. Just for FYI, DC United, 7 red cards, and then a bunch of teams tied with, Seattle was 6, and a bunch of teams tied with 5. Seattle Rapids still get to play them. That's a big game coming up. The Minnesota game's coming up. The Los Angeles Galaxy game is a huge game coming up. Rapids right in the middle of a playoff run. Yeah, and then they play Seattle again, and they play Austin on decision day. Austin not out of the playoffs, so we'll see what happens there. If they want to be a spoiler, I'm sure Diego Rubio is going to try to start something on decision day. But that's a little less than a month away. Rapids, 5 games left to play in MLS regular season. The last Eastern Conference team the Rapids will play, and they've been pretty good against Eastern Conference this year. So I'm excited for the Rapids this weekend. If we can take advantage of free kicks, which we've done all season, if we can take advantage of the altitude, which the Rapids have done all season, tire out the Eastern Conference team, who is not very good on the road, although I don't want to jinx them. But I think the Rapids can come out, handle some business. And the last thing I wanted to say was there was a marriage proposal on the field at halftime. She did say yes. So congrats to them. It's a couple of C38 fans down there. And I was thinking about it, and there's like a media guide and there's media resources, and I was a nerd that would read all of them because I used to like to make quizzes, and I'll still quiz Caberto on trivia, and I did that on our old radio show, and I still like to do it, but I read a lot of tidbits from, tidbits make the show. My favorite one about the Rapids, the first ever general manager, Charlie Wright. I don't even think he was a Kroenke guy. I think he was back when Anschutz owned the team. That guy, he was a soccer general manager, also played in the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. So that's a tidbit. Charlie Wright, Colorado Symphony Orchestra. They should probably look up, see if he's still kicking somewhere. The original Rapids general manager. But I remembered that I knew a famous Colorado Rapid had proposed to his wife the same way. And I was walking back in the press box to, do whatever, go inside and get them halftime stats or whatever. And I saw Drew Moore, and I knew it was a Rapids captain that had done a public proposal. And so I'm like, all right, Drew, you're captain. No, it was a you. And he's like, no. And I was like, I know it was a Rapids captain. I was trying to think of it. And I looked it up. It was a Rapids captain. It was 2010 MLS Cup champion Pablo Mastroeni, the Colorado Rapid in exile. It was Captain Pablo. He proposed to his wife at halftime of a Miami Fusion game in 2000. So, yeah, a long time ago. He did that at a professional game. That's hardcore. I wasn't worried about proposal because my wife and I had talked about it several times. I was more worried about what her dad was going to say to me, although I'm not worried about him anymore. But I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could propose in front of all those people. But I did remember correctly, a Colorado Rapid captain, and there's your trivia question. Which Colorado Rapid captain proposed to his wife publicly? And that would be Pablo Mastroeni. So, and by the way, congrats to him. They're headed to a second place right now. Finish in the Western Conference. And depending on what happens, Salt Lake can still win the West, although that hasn't been really a good sign for many teams in the past couple of years. So, thanks, Rapids fans. Go out, Dick's Sporting Goods, wear your light jackets for Saturday night. And if you've listened this far, God bless you. Make sure to take care of yourselves and each other. Let's go, Rapids.